Peter Jongeneelen joins us today from Moncton. He is the co-chair of ACORN NB, a tenants union for low and moderate income people. They held a mock funeral called Funeral for the Temporary Rent Cap on January 3rd in downtown Moncton. The mock funeral was held in response to expired rent cap. The temporary rent cap expired December 31st, 2022. Here's what he has to say.
My name is Peter Jongeneelen, Jongeneelen. I am one of the co-chairs of New Brunswick ACORN. We're a tenants union for low and moderate income people. We basically held like a mock funeral, basically for the death of rent control in New Brunswick. The casket was basically to represent all the thousands of dollars that tenants will be basically giving up, and the things that they're giving up to try and the struggle to just try and survive. So the purpose of it was, and the reason why it was held on January 3rd, is that was the first working day of the new year where the Residential Tenancies Tribunal was open. We kind of picked that day symbolically, specifically for that, and also let the Joe Green and Premier Higgs know that tenants are not going to take this lying down. This housing policy Bill 25 that's been in the new legislations that's been introduced is just a direct insult to tenants who are struggling to survive. We look at our province's seniors and those on disability and those who are working, at low and middle income jobs. And I mean, them saying to us, dig a little deeper, work a little harder. Everybody is struggling with the cost of inflation. Them saying that it's good for tenants can afford this is a direct insult. Like, they can't. A senior on a fixed income is already struggling enough. I don't think that a senior should ever have to say, wait a minute, do I go without food? Do I, go without heat in the winter? Do I go without medications? What can I give up? It's like the message is, hey, you need to sacrifice something to give to big business. There's been a number of problems with this new announcement that we know are facts. We know what the data is. We know what the economists were saying, that rent control would work and then should be extended. Minister Joe Green came right out and said, misquoted an economist, I believe the last name was Salient, out of St. John. And he actually came out in the press and said, or agreed with us and said 100%, I don't know why she's saying that I don't agree with rent control, because I do. It does work. Rent control does work in tandem with other measures. So it is something that I would say in this case should be extended. So there was that. Then we look at the way that the rent cap in 2022 was introduced. In the budget announcement on March 22nd, it was rent control is going to be 1 year for the tenants, and then we're going to give 3 years of tax breaks to landlords off of their supposed double tax, which is not really a double tax. If someone owned a home and they owned a cottage, they would be taxed on the place that they're not living in, which would be the cottage. The reason a lot of people, regular people, don't realize the double tax is simply realize that there's more tax on the cottages because it's of a lower value than their home that is their primary residence. But yeah, I mean, to give them tax breaks at 50% and then say, no, we can't extend the rent cap, it makes no sense. If they had came out when the rent cap was introduced and said 3 years of tax breaks for the landlords and 3 years of rent control for the tenants, that would have been fair. It would have been balanced. We were hoping that it would be extended, and we were tenants are quite upset that they didn't want to extend it. extending it for 2 or 3 more years would have made good sense. You know, so we're basically back to square one. You know, what was happening like in December of 2020? We're back to that point. Yeah, so I don't see, you know, this was basically to try and bring a lot of attention to this. On it, all I can say is we went to the RTT office, right to their doors to try and actually, you know, bring a message to them that, yeah, tenants are not happy on this. Let's just say they did not expect it. They didn't quite know what to make of us being there. No manager was even there to receive the letter or wanted to even talk to us while we were there, which is unsurprising.
Now that the temporary rent cap has expired, what's next for the province?
Well, with this current legislation, basically they're telling tenants, you know, the rent would be determined. Like if you've got an extreme rent increase, contact the RTT, and yeah, we'll figure out something that is to equal market value in your area. Now, when you look at it, if say your residence for a 2-bedroom, say, is $1,100, and what's comparable to another place that's for rent in the same area, which could be a luxury apartment, is $1,500. They would say, oh, well, you know, we'll make sure that we only do the rent increase. We'll spread it out over 3 years. But yeah, your rent is going to become $1,500 because the guy down the road is renting his out at $1,500. We're seeing things like, you know, people are getting rent increase letters. They started getting them actually earlier this year, and we're seeing some of them being like anywhere from like a 15% increase up to like 75, 80%. And yeah, the ones that are like the higher numbers are being told no. But when you're seeing somebody who's basically like, it could literally be, the other thing that they're talking about is as long as it's not double the inflation rate. Well, the inflation rate right now is 7.7%. So if they were to say less than double of that, that could very well be 15%. Now, if they're going to put a 15% increase on every year, say it's 45% that your increase would be in your rent, 45% spread over 3 years. That's not rent control. That's not even close to being rent control. So it just seems like, you know, that tenants are being left farther, being pushed farther and farther behind on everything, and they're giving up more and more. It could very well lead to, you know, some people potentially being that they don't know where to go. They could wind up being homeless, overcrowding in apartments. You know, we do know of a parent with 2 small children. They're basically in a 1-bedroom apartment. You know, the kids are in the room and the mom's sleeping on the couch. That's not an optimal environment to raise kids. I mean, they need their own space. But I mean, if that's all that the mother can afford on social assistance, well, that's all that she can do. You know, it just seems like, you know, it's rent gouging on the backs of the poor, and Joe Green and the Higgs government fully know that it's going on, and it's like they don't care. You know, there was a Zoom meeting once where they had met where the housing minister, Joe Green, on November 25th, did meet with tenant rights groups. A representative from ACORN was there. A representative of the New Brunswick Coalition for Tenant Rights was there. And the president of the New Brunswick Apartment Owners Association, Willie Schulten, was there. And when asked, Willie Schulten from the Landlord Association actually said, you know, landlords, while we're dealing with 7.7% inflation, so we need more money because we have to show, you know, profits for our shareholders. You know, we can't survive because of the inflation. And tenant rights advocates, one of ours in the group was literally saying to him, well, 7.7% inflation. Well, we already know about that. If anyone is being affected by inflation, the people who feel it the most are those who are living on social assistance, or seniors living on a fixed income, or people who have low and moderate income. This affects everyone. You're not special on this. You got tax breaks, and the other thing was the Higgs government basically did tax breaks for anyone who makes over, I believe it's $80,000 a year. So, I mean, it's really a slap in the face for anyone who's low and moderate income, for them to say, no, we're not even going to give you rent control. We're not, no, you're getting nothing. It doesn't make sense. So, I mean, this rally really was to kind of let the province know, we're not stopping. We're moving forward. Tenants are basically going to be speaking out. We have more things on the go down the road. Just because they said no does not mean that we can't change their mind. There was something that was said by Minister Joe Green to us, which is, if things get bad enough, anything is on the table. Well, how bad does it have to be? Things already are bad enough for some tenants. So, that's kind of the message on this. I think that they should really revisit this, and really have a look on it. Even in the legislature, Minister Joe Green has misquoted housing data. She had said that that rent control would discourage new development, but when the numbers actually came out, it did not discourage development, because there are plenty of places of apartment buildings being developed and housing being developed. What it was actually is that the number of actual housing starts was down, but the number of units being built is way up from 2021 numbers. So misinformation that she has provided, attempting to misdirect, misquoting economists, it's basically, the rent cap died due to lies, greed, and government misdirection. There's no other way to say it. It may sound like we're coming down hard on them, but there's no other way to say it. This is exactly what they did.
Mm-hmm. So do you believe the Higgs government has sided with landlords than with tenants in this province?
Oh, 100%, 100%. It's just basically, I don't understand where the logic is in siding only with landlords. Also, it looks like from our standpoint, and basically from the public standpoint, is, if you have money, the Higgs government loves you. But if you don't come from money, they don't care. That's basically it. I don't understand the theory on this. I mean, we look at, they're talking about government surpluses and all these different things. And, rent control is pretty easy to put in place. It's not a lot of money for them to put this in place. What they have to do is, at some point, and we're really surprised on this, with the tax breaks that they've given and everything like this, they could have said straight out to landlords in big corporate landlord associations, everything like this, is, look, you've gotten the tax breaks. We've given you this. You have to give the tenants that. It would be balanced. It would make sense, and it would be fair. Personally, that's the thing that we're kind of surprised on it. But yeah, the message is basically, we don't care. Minister Joe Green is actually touting that the fact that our complaints to the Residential Tenancies Tribunal jumped 17% overall for things like maintenance complaints, rises to rent, disagreements with landlords, this sort of thing. It jumped 17% from 2021 into 2022. And they're saying that is good marketing. Well, let's set the record straight on this. The only reason that tenants are calling the Residential Tenancies Tribunal is because tenant rights groups like ACORN, like the New Brunswick Coalition for Tenant Rights, and others are actually saying to them, look, the issue is that we can talk about the problem, but it has to be you as the tenant filing the complaint. So we will help you get to that tribunal. We will show you where to find that information, and it's up to you to file a complaint. So it's us doing the work, sending the tenants to the RTT and getting the process started. The minister is taking credit for something that she didn't really do. If you have a good government program that works and there's no problems, you don't really have to advertise it. You don't have to market it. I mean, if it works and it's out there and people know about it, that's all that needs to happen. You don't have to market it to somebody. And don't take credit for marketing something that you didn't really market. The only thing that they did was maybe made some improvements to it. But again, that was through tenant rights groups meeting with the minister and saying back in early 2021 is, you know, your online system, the way that the complaints are filed is a little bit outdated and you should make some improvements. That's not marketing. That's them listening to what people are saying and then making some slight changes. But in this, though, why would you need to market a program that works?
You know, the government says that if they continue with the rent cap, it's going to affect the province economy. Do you buy this rhetoric, or what do you have to say about this?
No, I don't buy that rhetoric at all. As a matter of fact, here's the thing. Students are getting educated in the province, okay? Once they get their diploma, okay, and students are in housing, okay? Once they get their diploma, if they are paying exorbitant rents here in the province, but there's a job that's, say, in PEI, which has rent control, and Nova Scotia currently has temporary rent control. And they say, well, wait a minute, here I am getting a job out of college. We'll just say for the sake of argument that it pays $40,000 a year. If they're looking at, you know, 45% of my income is going to just pay my rent in New Brunswick. But if I move to PEI that has rent control, or Nova Scotia that has rent control, and I can live at 30% of my income being devoted to rent, then that's going to leave me more money to be in my pocket so that I can buy a car, so that I can save up to buy my own home, pay off my student loans. People are going to leave this province and go elsewhere. You know, New Brunswick is, you know, politicians, the Higgs government is actually toting like new immigrants coming into the province that they're going to stick around. Well, that's not true as well. We've seen new immigrants to the country arrive in New Brunswick, live here 2-3 years, and then what happens is they can afford to live cheaper in PEI, Nova Scotia, Quebec, Newfoundland. So they're moving there and they're leaving the province. You know, to keep people in the province and to keep young people in the province, you know, you have to have kind of something that is going to allow them to save up to buy a home. Once they buy a home in the province, they're going to live here for years. But if they can't save up to buy a home, they can't save up to, you know, get a good car and pay off their education, they're going to go somewhere where it's more affordable to live. So this theory of, you know, it isn't working, and that's just it. We've got an aging population in our province. You know, people who are like they're having problems hiring people to work in restaurants and retail. Because of the low wages. And it's not just because of the low wages, it's also because the rents are so high that they're looking to other provinces and saying, I could live cheaper in Nova Scotia. It's right next door. May as well go there if I can find the same job paying good money. I'd be better off living in another province. So young people are leaving the province. New immigrants coming to the province, also they're starting to leave as well. So I don't see why they don't see that rent control is part of the equation here.
Okay.
You have to have places that are affordable to live in, for people to work in those low and moderate income jobs.
Mhm. Do you also see the connection between homelessness in the province, in comparison to rent control?
Yes, actually. Well, we had a survey that ACORN put out during the summer months. It was around the whole rent control in rent evictions. There were a number of people who were homeless that actually came up to us and said, yes, I basically could not pay my rent. I couldn't pay it all because it went up. So when the rent increase happened, I could not pay the rent, so I was evicted. Or the landlord just kind of came along and said, oh, we have to do modifications to your place. So all of a sudden, I can't find something.
Mhm.
I'm out the door and I have nowhere to live, so I'm surfing on somebody else's couch, or I'm sleeping at a homeless shelter, and the numbers are alarming. It's roughly 25% of people that are homeless. There was a survey that was done among basically different poverty activist groups and the homeless shelters. And yeah, even the data said, 15%, no, sorry, 12% of people who were homeless reported that they're homeless because of, the rent increase they could not afford. And 13% said that basically they were evicted due to, renovations or unsafe housing. So, I mean, that all plays into this. And yes, when you're passing by a soup kitchen, which is something that I've seen. I seen it last year. A 75-year-old man and a 72-year-old woman standing in line, literally on St. George Street, waiting to get a meal at the last couple of weeks of the month, standing out there in the freezing cold. And the reason why is because they don't have enough food to get through the month. They have enough to pay the rent and pay the bills, but that's not something that we want to see our seniors having to do, is, go daily to a soup kitchen just to have something to eat. That's quite alarming. And it just seems like this government just does not care. So yeah, homelessness does play a big role in this, and I just hate to say it, but I'm worried that people, if there's nowhere that's affordable that they can live, I can't see how more people will not wind up potentially homeless.
So what's next for your organization? Like, how are you going to tackle this issue?
Well, we're looking into different things that we can do. We haven't really picketed MLA's offices much over last year, but it's definitely something that we would explore doing. This one here was a little bit out of the norm on this, but basically. Picketing the MLAs, different actions like this, online actions, calling up. We're looking at as well putting something together that's kind of like to make it a little bit easier for tenants to basically file complaints, some educational pieces online, infographics, this sort of thing. The main message that we do want to give to Minister Joe Green and Premier Higgs and the PC Conservative government here in New Brunswick is, we're not going away. This is an issue that needs to be dealt with. If you don't want to do it, well, we'll make sure that that we're around and we're not going to stop. And here's the other thing on this as well. We've pretty much said it straight out to Minister Green in a meeting, is Okay, so you're telling everyone to call the RTT as tenants when they have complaints. They're doing that, obviously. Well, anything and everything. If there's a maintenance problem that you have with your landlord, if you've talked to him once and he said no, contact the RTT, make a complaint. If you have a rent increase, more than 5%, call them, make sure that they know about it. Because I think that what has to happen is the sheer number of complaints may be the thing that might shift their response and saying no. I think that's really what tenants need to do. It is something that we're looking at, and yeah, I mean, it's not just that you go to the RTT. Things that are online petitions, and that we do have one for rent control. We do have one around rent evictions. So we're looking at kind of putting those sort of petitions together, send those to the MLAs, and not just the Minister Joe Green, but even your local MLA, opposition MLAs as well, because they need to know about it. The more that the more that information that they get, the more the numbers are being accounted for statistically as well. I mean, those numbers up 17% from last year, that is something that is, say, if it goes up, another 4 or 5%, that needs to be taken into account. So it does put pressure on the government to do things. A phone blitz where, we get tenants to basically all at once call on the minister's office, call on Premier Higgs, call their local MLAs, emails, petitions, all these sort of things that can be done that we're looking into. But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that we had to go and do this in this way. But I think the thing is that without doing something like a mock funeral for the death of rent control, not much attention would be paid on it. It kind of came as a shock to the RGT office. I mean, we went in there to visit them, and they did not have any idea what to make of it. And I think that's kind of the thing that needs to kind of happen is, if you sit back as a tenant and you do nothing, then it's just going to keep on happening. So definitely I would say to anyone who's a tenant going through any sort of problems that can't be resolved with a landlord reasonably, if it's rent gouging outright, or you feel that, wait a minute, is something that they're trying to change, is that legal to do? Call the RTT, get in touch with tenant rights groups, this sort of thing. Together is the only way, speaking out is the only way to really get this taken care of. Sitting back and doing nothing, it's just going to keep going. And, the government needs to be told straight out, rethink your policy, and this will work. If it's worked in Ontario, it's worked in Quebec, it works in PEI. Nova Scotia has temporary rent control. We can have it here. It's obvious. We know the numbers, we know the data, we know the facts. The thing is that data, the numbers, and the facts, that is dependent on the tenants making the complaints so that data can be used to get rent control back. So any tenant making a complaint really can have an impact on this overall.
Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us your thoughts.
Thank you very much for having me here, and we appreciate the chance to interview on that. So you have a great day.
And that was Peter, who joined us from Moncton. His message was clear to the government that the rent cap should be permanent for the growth and sustenance of the province. For the NB Media Co-op, this is Arun Budathoki.